Good morning students. So in this video lecture you are going to learn about mechanism of nucleophilic substitution reactions. Already you have learnt different types of nucleophilic substitution reaction. So how exactly or what is the mechanism that is followed by these reactions is that you are going to learn through important mechanism, that is one is SN1 mechanism, the other one is SN2 mechanism. Okay, in general you have learnt any alkyl halides when you are substituting the nucleophile for this. How exactly you carried out all the nucleophilic reaction is the nucleophile was attacking the R, that is electrophilic carbon here, and this X was leaving from the reaction. So what you got is RNU, that is nucleophile attached to this, plus X minus. Here this X is called as leaving group. Okay, so this is how the reaction is taking place. But what is the mechanism that is involved here is all the nucleophilic substitution reaction, they may undergo different types of mechanism, but for your syllabus you have got two important mechanism. So a nucleophilic substitution reaction may follow the SN1 pathway or it may follow the SN2. At the end of this video lecture you should be able to identify what kind of a mechanism a given molecule is undergoing, whether it is SN1 or the SN2. Okay. So what does this SN1 and SN2 stands for is, S mainly stands for the substitution and N stands for the nucleophile. So SN1 and SN2 is nothing but one here is unimolecular nucleophilic substitution reaction, bimolecular nucleophilic substitution reaction. So let us learn first SN1 mechanism. So let us study the SN1 mechanism. The example that is there in your syllabus is tertiary butyl bromide. So how the SN1 mechanism goes is, first we'll see the general reaction. Tertiary butyl bromide, it is alkyl halide that we have taken here, and then the nucleophile OH minus. So how the nucleophilic reaction will be taking place is, this nucleophile will attack this electrophilic carbon and this Br minus will leave from this reaction. So Br minus is a leaving group and OH is attached to this electrophilic carbon. So a tertiary butyl bromide is converted into tertiary butyl alcohol. Okay, so as I have told you, it is a unimolecular nucleophilic substitution reaction. By the kinetics of this reaction, the rate of a reaction is directly proportional to the concentration of only the alkyl halide. That means the rate is affected by only the concentration of this alkyl halide. As a result, the mechanism is first order reaction. Okay, so SN1 reaction mainly has two important steps. Okay, so what is the first step is, in the first step what happens is, the tertiary butyl bromide, it undergoes heterolytic cleavage. Okay, that means the carbon and the halogen bond that will be broken. So this is heterolytic cleavage here. What happens, this bond is broken means this is more electronegative atom, it will get a slight negative charge. Okay, that means the completely negative charge is present on this Br minus, and then when we are breaking this carbon has lost the electrons here, so this will get a positive charge. Okay, that means in the first step of SN1 mechanism, the tertiary butyl bromide undergoes a heterolytic cleavage to form a carbocation. So what is the degree of this carbocation here is, it is attached with three other carbon atom, that is alkyl groups are present. So the degree of this is tertiary. So it is a tertiary carbocation. Okay, this is the first step. The second step is, whatever the first step that is formed in the step 1, that is whatever the product that is formed in the step 1, that is tertiary carbocation, that will be attached with this OH minus. So what happens is, to this tertiary carbocation, the nucleophile will attack this and then the alcohol is formed. No doubt we'll just substitute this OH and then we'll leave this Br minus from the group. That is a general reaction. But how exactly the mechanism is taking place is, all these organic reactions, no, there is a covalent bond in them. As a result, what happens? Immediately the reactions will not be taking place. Okay, they involve always a step-by-step reactions. So this is first step and this is second step. The first step in this arrow I have written here, slow step. That means in every reaction, if more than steps, means more than 2 or 3 steps are there, out of that one will be having the slow step. So first step I have written here a reversible arrow. So what does this indicates here is, the moment this bond is broken, carbocation is formed and Br minus is formed. This Br minus ion is existing here. This again, it may attack this carbocation and then there is again a formation of a substrate molecule as it is. That is why it is a reversible step here. In order to avoid that and in order to make this carbocation to react for the further steps, what we are going to do is, we are going to add a polar solvent to this. That means the reaction is done in presence of some of the polar protic solvents. Okay, this is external factor. The internal factor is how stable this intermediate, that is whatever the carbocation this is formed, no, if the intermediate is more stable, then the reaction will be taking place at a ease. So that is one thing. Here 3 alkyl groups are present on this. As a result, what happens is, these 3 are acting as electron donating group. They will make this carbocation more stable. Okay, more stable the intermediate means the reaction will be taking place in an easier way. That is one thing. The second factor, how you can also influence this reaction, by adding a polar protic solvent. So what are polar solvents is, you know that one electronegative atom will be there and the electropositive atom will be there. That means there is a polarization, or the polarity will be present in such molecule. So that is polar. Protic means they can give the H plus ions. Okay, they are called as polar protic solvents. Example that I have written here is, one is water, alcohol and then acetic. Many are there, so only the few polar protic solvents I have written here. So what these polar protic solvents helps is, here you can see there is a carbocation intermediate. So polar protic solvent alcohol, if you consider, which is having a slight negative charge here and this is having a slight positive charge here. Once this carbocation intermediate is formed, no, these polar protic solvent, many such molecules, they will get attached to this carbocation. As a result, what happens? They will try to suppress this positive charge. Okay, so that the stability of that carbocation will be increased. Okay, so the role of this polar protic solvent is just to make this intermediate carbocation stable. So that is one thing you have to remember. That means SN1 reaction, as there is a formation of carbocation intermediate, that is why we are making use of this polar protic solvent to stabilize the carbocation. The second step is the fast step. As soon as this first step, that is first intermediate carbocation that is formed, will be reacting with this nucleophile and the reaction will be taking place. Okay, so some of the important things that you have to remember here is, SN1, it is a unimolecular substitution reaction where the molecularity is 1. Since the rate of a reaction is influenced with the concentration of only the reactant molecule, that is alkyl halide, so it is a first order reaction, and then it involves 2 important steps. That is, the first step is the formation of carbocation intermediate. The second step is the formation of a alcohol. First step is the slow step, which is a rate determining step. Second step is the fast, and then SN1 reaction is mainly influenced by the polar protic solvent. Okay, these things you have to remember. The next thing is reactivity order. In the previous mechanism, we have learnt the tertiary butyl bromide. Okay, the degree of that alkyl halide was tertiary. So if we consider different kinds of alkyl halides having a primary, secondary and tertiary degree, so how the order for this will be, the tertiary is more reactive than secondary, then comes the primary. So what is the main reason is, in the mechanism we have seen that in the first step there was a formation of carbocation intermediate. You know that in the carbocation intermediate the tertiary carbocation will be more stable, and then the secondary carbocation, and then the primary carbocation. As a result, this is a reactivity order. Why tertiary is more stable is, here it is having three different alkyl groups which are acting as electron donating group, making this carbocation intermediate stable. Then secondary, and then comes the primary. Okay, so there are some other cases where the compounds are undergoing SN1 mechanism itself. So what are they is, first one is allylic and benzylic halides. You have learnt in the classification what are allyl halides and what are benzylic halides. Okay, allyl halides are those if the halogen atom is attached to the carbon having sp3 hybridization, where the adjacent carbon will be having a sp2 hybridization. Okay, I have removed the halide from this and I have made it as a positive charge. This is called as allylic carbon, and there is a positive charge on this one. It is called allylic carbocation. When you consider this, the degree of this carbon is, it is attached to only one carbon. That means it is primary in nature. Though it is primary in nature, we are saying that it is undergoing SN1 mechanism. So what is the reason for that is, after the formation of the carbocation here, there is a double bond. As a result, what happens is, there is a resonance taking place. So this double bond will shift here. Okay, as a result, this carbon will get a positive charge. That means a positive charge is stabilized. In case of tertiary, the positive charge was getting stabilized by the three different alkyl groups. Okay, here what happens is, the positive charge is stabilized with the shifting of this bond. As a result, this attains a stability. That is why allylic halides are undergoing SN1 mechanism. The second one is benzylic halides. What happens in case of benzylic halides is, see here, benzyl halides are those where the halogen atom is attached to the sp3 carbon atom, which is attached to the aromatic ring. Okay, this classification we call it as a benzylic halides. Okay, so the same thing I have written. If I remove the halogen here, it will get a positive charge. How exactly the stabilization will be taking place here is, this one bond here, it is nothing but a 2 electron. These complete 2 electrons I am shifting here. As a result, there is a formation of double bond here. When I shift this one, what happens? It has lost its electrons, and the valence of this carbon here is 1, 2. Okay, and the one hydrogen will be there, that will be 3. So it is less with the valency, so it will get a positive charge. Further, positive charge here, this you are going to shift. If you are shifting here, then what happens? This double bond will be shifted here. As a result, there is a formation of double bond here, and it has lost here. So this will get a positive charge. Next, this will be shifted. It will get a double bond. It has lost the electron, so it will get a positive charge. You can see here there are many resonating structures. As a result, what happens? Benzylic halides, when we carry out a reaction, the intermediate carbocation carrying a positive charge, no, this is getting more stabilized because of the resonance, or because of the resonating structure. The more resonating structure, the more stable will be the molecule. Okay, so after this, you have to comment. After watching this, tell me, if I give you the tertiary alkyl halides and then the benzylic halides, between the tertiary and benzylic carbocation, which will undergo the SN1 reaction faster? Okay, do comment for this one. The next nucleophilic substitution mechanism is SN2. Okay, so for the SN2 mechanism, the example that we are taking here is methyl bromide or the bromomethane. So what happens is, SN2 mechanism is involving only the single step. General reaction I have written here. The substrate molecule, that is reactant molecule methyl bromide, when it is reacting with a nucleophile, you are going to get a methanol, and Br minus will be removed. Okay, So when we see the rate of a reaction here, the rate of a reaction is directly proportional to the concentration of methyl bromide as well as on the nucleophile. As a result, what happens is this reaction is second order, as it is the rate is affected by the concentration of substrate as well as on the nucleophile. So how the reaction will be, or the mechanism will be taking place here is, I have written this methyl bromide in this way. Okay, Br minus, which is electronegative and it carries a slight negative charge, this carries a slight positive charge. So what happens here is, the nucleophile which is rich with electron attacks this electrophilic center carbon. But how it is taking place here is, the OH minus is attacking from the side opposite to this leaving group, that is the Br minus here. So the moment this OH minus attacks this, the Br minus will be going. Immediately the reaction will not be taking place. I have shown here the formation of the OH and the C bond and the breaking of this C and the Br, no, they are taking place in a simultaneous manner. So OH is attacking here, the dotted bonds, the bond is written in this fashion, that indicates that still there is a bond formation taking place. So OH is attacking this and this Br minus. Once the complete formation of a bond takes place, then what product you are going to get is nothing but a methanol. Okay, so OH is attached. You can see here the nucleophile is attached to the exactly opposite end of the halogen, that is leaving group. Okay, now here I have written it in a box, square box. What does it indicates here is, the formation and the breaking of the bond will be taking place simultaneously. There is no intermediate that is formed, unlike SN1 where the carbocation was the intermediate. Here this is called as a transition state. Transition state is that where there is not a complete product as well, not the complete reactant. The transformation of the bonds will be taking place. So this is called as transition state. It is highly unstable, that is why we are just representing that by writing it in a bracket. Okay, remember. So this SN1 and SN2, they are very very important for your examination, for the board examination. So 2 marks they'll ask you, explain the SN1 mechanism or the SN2 mechanism. Sometimes they may give you the other questions along with this, like what is the molecularity or what is the order for this SN1 and SN2. So make sure while writing the mechanism you clearly show this arrow and then writing of this transition state and then this product for the SN2. For the SN1, what you have to keep it in mind is writing of the positive charge on the carbon. Okay, don't make that mistake. And then also remember the reactivity for the different degree of alkyl halides, tertiary, secondary and then the primary. That is also important. In case of SN2, what happens is, the approach of the nucleophile from the end opposite to the carbon atom bearing the halogen atom, that is leaving group, will be taking place. That means where the halogen atom is attached, no, the approach of this nucleophile takes place exactly opposite to this one. So I have written here various alkyl halides. This is methyl halide, this is primary, this is secondary and then the tertiary. So out of this, what will be the reactivity order for the SN2 mechanism will be, you can see the nucleophile has to attack this carbon and the X has to leave from this. So the nucleophile approach is taking place for this carbon, means the space whatever that is available for this, it should be clear. That means here the C is attached with 3 hydrogen. If we see the size of this hydrogen atoms, it is very less. So the nucleophile will attack this and the X minus will be leaving. Whereas in case of primary, what happens, a primary carbon, that is primary alkyl halide, which is attached with one another carbon. Okay, that means a carbon atom which is attached to one carbon here. Okay, so how the nucleophile will be attacking here is this. The attack of the nucleophile, no doubt it takes place, but less compared to this one. Here there is a bulky group, that is CH3. In case of secondary and tertiary, the bulkiness will be increasing. Here 2 CH3 groups are there. Here 3 other CH3 groups are there. As a result, what happens? The nucleophile will not get the sufficient space because these groups are bulky in nature. As a result, what happens? They'll hinder, or there is little obstacle for the nucleophile to attack this carbon. As a result, when we write the reactivity, first is methyl, that means that undergoes faster nucleophilic substitution reaction, that is SN2, and then comes the primary, and then comes the secondary, and last comes the tertiary. This order you have to remember. Okay. The next concept that you're going to learn is optical activity. So some of the organic molecules, they show some activity by the presence of light. Okay, so for that you have to know some terms. Polarized light. What is polarized light? Is a light which is scattered in all the direction. Okay, this when I pass it to the nickel prism, what happens is the light will be restricted to only one plane. That is called as plane polarized light. So this plane polarized light, when I react that with the organic molecules, so what happens if I react this with organic molecules is these organic molecules rotate the plane of polarized light either in the clockwise direction or in the anti-clockwise directions. So this phenomenon, if the molecule is rotating the plane polarized light in a clockwise direction or in the anti-clockwise direction, it is showing some activity. Okay, this is called as optical activity. Okay, substances may rotate it in a clockwise or may rotate it in an anti-clockwise. If it is in a clockwise direction, then it is called as dextrorotatory. If it is in an anti-clockwise direction, then it is called as levorotatory. Okay, that is represented by the word D, and this is represented by a term L. Okay, you have to remember this. They may ask you for 1 mark what is dextrorotatory or what is levorotatory and what is meant by optical activity. So you have to know condition for the optical activity. So when we say compounds are optically active, there are some conditions a molecule has to follow. The first one is, the essential conditions is a molecule must be chiral or asymmetric in nature. Okay, the first condition is a molecule must be asymmetric or chiral in nature. You have already learnt chiral is nothing but a carbon atom which is attached to 4 different groups. So this is represented by the asterisk symbol, and this is called as chiral. Okay, the other term how you can also say this a molecule as a chiral is a molecule must be having a nature of non-superimposable mirror image nature. So what is that? Is non-superimposable mirror images. Okay, so the simplest way how you can remember is, see here, this is just for your understanding purpose. I am writing the molecule in this way. Okay, so here it is attached with A, B and C and D. This is a carbon molecule. It is attached with 4 different groups. If I want to write the mirror image of this, okay, so how does the mirror image looks? That is, remember always, in order to write the mirror image, these above, that is the groups present on this vertical line, you just keep them as it is. Only you have to change this, the horizontal group. So what will be the mirror image for this will be C, and D will be as it is. The B comes here and then A comes here. So these are the mirror images. The mirror image of this molecule is this, the mirror image of this molecule is this. Okay, now see here, what you do is completely you impose this molecule on this. That means you overlap the molecules. For example, now you consider this as a 1 and this you consider it as a 2. What you do is, the second molecule you impose here. So what happens is C is overlapping with C, D is overlapping with D. How about this A and B? B is overlapping with A and A is overlapping with B. That means if all the atoms, if they are overlapping with the same atoms, then it is called as the mirror images are imposable. Okay, they are superimposable. If they are overlapping on a different atoms, then they are called as non-superimposable. Okay, they are called as non-superimposable mirror images. Okay, remember. So the conditions are a molecule must be chiral, asymmetric, and then non-superimposable mirror images should be there. These non-superimposable mirror images, no, they are called as enantiomers. Okay, so in the examination they may ask you define enantiomers. Okay, the two isomers which are non-superimposable on their mirror images, such a stereomers, they are called as enantiomers. Okay, and therefore the molecules also exhibits the optical activity. Why the enantiomers are optically active is mainly because of the presence of this chiral center. All these groups that are attached, no, they are different. This is called as stereogenic center. They may ask you define stereogenic center. Okay, that is also important. And then remember, in a molecule, it means some of the compounds may have one stereogenic center, or some of the compounds may have more than two stereogenic centers as well. Okay, if I consider the example here with a stereo, that is one stereogenic center, here CH3, this CHBr, which is CH2, CH3. So when you see this molecule, it is called as 2-bromobutane. So this 2-bromobutane, which is attached with 4 different groups here, that is, it is a chiral carbon here. Okay, so molecule, if they are having a chiral carbon, they will be having a isomers. So how many optical isomers are there for this molecule is, this is for your for the entrance exam, it is useful. So you can just remember the thing, that is 2 raised to n. What is here n stands for is, n is for the number of stereogenic center. For example, here it is 1. So 2 raised to 1 will be 2. That means 2 optical isomers are there. See, remember, this is only for identifying the number of optical isomers. If 2 centers are there, 2 stereogenic centers are there, the total number of isomers, that is optical isomers, will be 2 raised to 2. That will be 4 optical isomers are there. Okay, this one you have to keep it in mind. So as you can see here, I have written molecule, that is propane-2-ol. So this propane-2-ol, which is attached with the 4 groups, but all these 4 groups are not different. CH3, CH3, it is same itself. So this we cannot call it as a chiral molecule. So this is called as a chiral. That means all the groups that are attached to the tetrahedral carbon, no, they are not different. Okay, so the other example I have written here, butane-2-ol. You can see here, this act as a chiral molecule. So one group attached is C2H5, the H, CH3, and this is OH. This is called as chiral. Okay, very important. And then I have taught you the definition for the enantiomers. These enantiomers, no, they have got a same physical properties like melting point and the boiling point, but in which they differ is, they only differ in the rotation of the plane polarized light. So if one is rotating in a clockwise direction, if one isomer, the other isomer will rotate to the plane polarized light in the anti-clockwise manner.